Okay, this is the second little mini lecture on Qohelet or Ecclesiastes. So I was up to chapter 4. So chapter 4 acknowledges the oppression that exists in the world. It talks about oppression and bad things that people do to people, and is a basic defense of the purpose of cooperation, even in society. So this is a very important chapter. In 4:11, it says, if two lie together, they are warm. But as for one, how will he be warm? So it's like this, the abstract problem, it's not in abstractions, it's not spoken in abstractions, but it is the abstract problem of getting help. So that is the way that you get around oppression, or that is the response to the existence of oppression. Okay, chapter 5 talks about making promises. There's a difference between this and the commandment in Exodus not to take God's name in vain. There's no reason in Exodus given for this, except that God says. And you might think it's obvious, like, for example, do not kill is another one of the commandments. Although if you think about that one, it needs to be justified and explained, like, don't kill except kill all the Amalekites. So don't kill people inside of your society is probably what it means, but it doesn't get an explanation. All right, so this is what gets said in Ecclesiastes. There it was in legal form commanded to us by God. Here it's an attempt to persuade you in 5:3. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it, even if there is no pleasure in fools. So the second half of the sentence is a reason. So that's why the whole text seems like it's related to Greek philosophy somehow. Even when it talks about what seems like an Israelite God, it's a work of persuasive philosophy. There's something that the person is trying to get across. It's not normative religion. It's not commandments. Chapter 6, very depressing. There's depressing speculation. Maybe life isn't worth living. But then the writer always questions himself and says he doesn't know whether this is wisdom he just wrote. And he doesn't know whether or not the wisdom that he wrote is worth anything. So it's not clear that he wants you to think depressing things. He thinks depressing things and he's trying to get out of it. Okay, chapter 7. In 7:1, there's a pun. The good name is better than good oil. So good name is Shem in Hebrew, and good oil is Shemen. So Shem is better than Shemen, which is like a standard proverb form. But then the second half of 7:1 is an anti-proverb. It's cynical or depressive, and it's completely surprising coming from the proverb form. So that's what Ecclesiastes is like. It uses what everybody else thinks of as wisdom, and it just sort of turns it on its head all the time. So this is like Hamlet. The book equates seriousness with unhappiness. So if you're not a serious dude who wears black all the time and is depressed all the time, then you're kind of a dummy. So 7:4 says, the wise man's heart is the house of mourning, and the heart of fools is the house of mirth. So the chapter goes through a process of dealing with this depressing point of view that is much more honest than the unreal optimism of the book of Proverbs. So for example, in 7:15 to 17, everything I have seen in my days of mere breath, my days of vanity in the King James, the righteous perishing in his righteousness and the wicked living a long life in his evil. So in the book of Proverbs and sometimes in the book of Psalms, you get bad people being punished and good people being rewarded. But this guy in Qohelet says, no, that's not what I saw. And he goes on in chapter 7, do not be over righteous and do not be over wise. Why should you be dumbfounded? Do not be over wicked and don't be a fool. So the chapter seems to be advocating moderation. But what really it's trying to say is it's really trying to do something that the speaker has tried many things and not really found any answers to life. That's what he's trying to express. He's tried a bunch of things. It's much more real than Proverbs, but it ends on some gross misogynistic sounding lines, just like the ones about the stranger woman in Proverbs. So the writer here does not escape from prejudices. That is to say, chapter 7 ends that way. Chapter 8, there is a strain of the writer that is empirical, by which I mean he describes real life situations, like just what I said that I quoted from chapter 7, where he says that bad people sometimes don't get punished. In 8:11, he says the sentence for an evil act is not carried out swiftly. Therefore, the heart of the sons of men brims over with them to do evil. So sometimes bad people are not punished. In other parts of the Bible, it says evil is punished, but here it says, no, that's not what I saw. So that's what I mean by empirical. This writer is trying to show us what he actually saw. Chapter 9, but the message is not all depressive. On the one hand, the writer says everyone, wise, fool, good, bad, meets the same bad end. That is to say, they all die. And in 9:4, he says, so as a result, a live dog is better than a dead lion. And you have to understand that they didn't have dogs as pets. They despised dogs. Dogs were scavengers at that time. Live dog is better than a dead lion. That's one of the famous lines. So on the other hand, there is a conclusion that the writer reaches, which is to live in the moment. Go, eat bread with rejoicing, and drink wine with a merry heart, for God has already been pleased with your deeds. So the reason to live for now is that there is no knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, where you are going. So Sheol is sometimes mistranslated as hell because the translators want to have a connection to the New Testament. But it's not hell. Hell is a place where some people go, but Sheol is a place where everybody goes. And Sheol is not really worked out in the Old Testament. It's not a clear thing. All right, chapter 11, and this is where I'm going to stop. Here we can see that one of the economic reasons for the attitude of the text. The lives of ancient peoples were far more precarious than ours. In 11:2, he says, give a share to 7 and even to 8, for you know not what evil will be on earth. He's calling, so it's not exactly like calling for diversification of investments, but it's not, because it's not necessarily monetary what he's talking about, but he's talking about something similar to that. It doesn't matter that it's not strictly monetary. He's saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's another way to put the phrase. These people had no insurance. Their literature is about floods. It's about disasters. It's about cities that are destroyed, like Sodom, empires that fall, unexpected people defeating empires, like the Hebrews leaving Egypt. People are exiled. So the Babylonian exile has the permanent mark on the Bible. People are killed. People sometimes are killed unexpectedly all over the Bible. And in general, there's a kind of barest level of society that you can imagine, especially in the book of Judges, but not just in Judges. There's a struggle to create a kingship in the Bible. And this is the world that Qohelet is writing about and in. They were still inventing a society, and the text reflects the state of uncertainty in that kind of situation. Okay, everybody be healthy and safe and cheerful and happy, and don't listen to what Qohelet says if it makes you unhappy. I will see you soon.